So you wrote The Jungle Book, you did other stuff. I just want you to tell, we were back in the green room, and he told me this wonderful story because we were talking about audience questions. And that somebody asked you a question once about Winnie the Pooh. Why don't you just tell them, how much did you make?
Well, I was at USC, and Buddy Baker, one of the great composers at Disney Studio, started a whole series, which now is very much part of the curriculum. It's the whole teaching of writing music for film. It's a very, very brilliant series of classes that they're teaching now. And basically, Buddy asked Bob and myself to come down to the studio to the university and give a few lectures. So one time we did this one lecture, and there's a Q&A at the end, and various students were asking questions. And there's one smart aleck at the end of, I had played some songs from Winnie the Pooh, etc. And he said, "Mr. Sherman," I said, "Yes, what is it?" He said, "How much money did you make from Winnie the Pooh?" It struck me as an audacious and ridiculous question. I didn't want to answer. I thought for a minute, and I said, "Oh, okay. It made me the richest man in the world." And now people said, "What are you talking?" I said, "Yes, I was the richest man in the world. And I'll tell you why. There was a little girl named Jessica McClure in Texas, and she fell down a well, upside down, in a well. And they frantically dug a parallel well down for hours and hours and endless hours, almost 2 days, to save her life. And they dropped a hose down there, put water in it, her mother could talk to her. And at one point, the little girl, upside down in this well, barely alive practically, said, "Mommy, please sing Winnie the Pooh for me." It's a true story. So she sang, endlessly sang this song to the little girl. And they finally, through a miracle, thank God, saved her life. They brought her up to the world again, to us. And little Jessica McClure was asked, it's wonderful. I mean, these people, she said, "Of course, I want to thank the heroes that saved my life, but I also want to thank Winnie the Pooh, because he was a little bear and great tightness, and he came out too." And I looked at this guy, I said, "And that made me the richest man in the world." Next year.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, you all know that. Was that your first assignment away from Disney?
Yes, it was. Actually, Bob and I were asked by the wonderful producer named Cubby Broccoli to do this film, and we were on a contract to Walt. But Walt gave us an out. He said, "You can go outside the studio for one picture." And he liked that. He liked Cubby Broccoli. He thought the project was very good. And he said, "This will be good for your career," which it certainly was. And we had a chance to work with a wonderful set of people. Some of the people that we had worked with on Mary Poppins, including Dick Van Dyke and Irwin Costal, our genius musical arranger. And we had Mark Bro and Dee Dee Wood, the choreographers. So we were among friends, you know. It was a wonderful experience, and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang became a huge hit for us. Both Mary Poppins and Chitty Bang Bang were gigantic hits on the stage. I mean, they just recently, the past 10 years, they've done brilliantly well. I'm tickled to say, yeah, it's wonderful. Living a life all over again.
It's fascinating that the film was actually not a hit when it came out, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But
in England it was. In London, in England it was.
Yeah.
Not in America.
But you know, in the intervening years, it has become a huge classic film.
We discovered it. So,
yeah, it's amazing when that happens. You went back to Disney and stayed for a while and did the Aristocats, the Bedknobs and Broomsticks, which have also turned into along with the Jungle Book. They've already done it. He's the busiest man in show business.
They just did a great reading of Bedknobs and Broomsticks in Chicago, and it's going to be opening next year. But it's very exciting. I'm very pleased about it. And
you also did two films that I'm very fond of from the 70s, Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Mark Twain period, and also Snoopy Come Home. How many people know that they actually wrote this one? And of course, the wonderful Charlotte's Web. In 1974, a year that will live in infamy, you must have have had what can only be described as a dream come true. You did the score for a big, splashy Broadway musical called Over Here.
Right.
And that musical became the highest grossing musical of that season. And it starred two of the Andrews sisters, since the third one was dead. Patty and Maxine. And it's also starred an up-and-coming young actor named John Travolta. And he wasn't the only up-and-coming young actor in that show. Get a load of these others. Treat Williams, Mary Lou Henner, Samuel E. Wright, and Anne Reinking. So you had written, interestingly, years before that, Victory Canteen,
right,
which played here in LA at the Ivar Theater in Hollywood, one of my favorite childhood theaters.
Oh,
so did that kind of lead you to Over Here?
Well, Over Here came because of this is what happened. We had worked on this Victory Canteen, and it was a local hit. It was very good, and it was optioned by producers in New York, the people who had done Grease, the same people, Weissman and Fox. And they liked it, but then when they started examining it and talking to the director of it, and the director who was going to direct it and everything, he felt that the book wasn't strong enough. They wanted to have a stronger book. And the people who had written our book, Milt Larson and Bobby Lahr, were very much involved in writing a television series out here. They couldn't do it. So a new writer was brought in and a new title was made, and we had to lose the entire score because we couldn't use that score. We wrote a brand new score. Can you imagine writing 17 more songs in the 40s style, you know, jive and boogie and all that, with the riffing, and it was a whole different kind of thing, but it was fun. So actually Over Here became a very, very successful show for us, and we had a great time doing it, but it became like a second Victory Canteen. It was a different show. So it was still the same period, same style, but a whole different set of songs.
So 2 years after Over Here took Broadway by storm, you were back doing another original film musical, and I think you guys have written more original film musicals than any other composers in history.
We've been lucky, yes.
I mean, can you imagine? But this one was an adaptation of Cinderella,
right,
called The Slipper and the Rose. Not only did you write the score, you also co-wrote the script with Brian Forbes,
right,
or at least he took credit.
No, he revised our script.
I'm sure he did. And so, again, you were faced with a leading lady, wonderful actor named Gemma Craven.
Right.
Or Gemma?
Gemma.
Right. Who couldn't really sing, and you wrote her some beautiful songs.
She
so
did
how
what
did
she
you?
could.
She did, but how did you? How did it? Was it weird, like having a total non-singer?
Well, I spoke to her and I said, "Think like you're a singer."